What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is Preview Picks, the show where I go over the comic books that are coming out on Wednesday, give you an impression as to what they're all about, and whether there's something you should talk to your comic book shop about. Make sure you subscribe to get one of these every single Monday. The first book that I want to talk about is Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 42, so this isn't really going to be dealing with a major continuity or the threat level red story arc that's going on in the main Amazing Spider-Man book, but it's something that for your Spider-Man fans, you might want to pick it up. I know I'm going to be picking it up because I am a Spider-Man fan, and I've got almost all the other ones, so might as well just go grab this one too. Bouncing over to DC, let's talk about Titans number 20. So after the effects of what happened in the most recent Titans book, the Titans have been disbanded by the Justice League until further notice, which leaves Roy Harper on a mission, as well as you've got, Donna Troy, and there's all these different kind of conflicts that are rising up around where these individual characters are. So Dan Abnett's been doing a great job on Titans. It's easy to forget about it simply because it comes out once a month compared to the twice a month that almost all the other Rebirth books are doing, but it's definitely been a really fun... It's been a really fun book from the start, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here, especially with the beginning of a brand new arc. Of course, we're talking about a good continuing story. We need to talk about Kill or Be Killed number 16 from Image. So Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips have been doing a fantastic job with this book. It's a book that I continue to pick up, even though I don't talk about it much on the channel, because it's a different type of vigilante street level, stuff. It's really got an interesting sense of sensibilities that goes along with my stuff, and it's one of those things that I appreciate, but I don't necessarily know if you guys will, but I continue to recommend it because it is pretty fantastic. Another book I'll recommend because I really like where it's going is Bloodshot Salvation number 6 coming out of Valiant. So with the news of Valiant being purchased, which I went over in my comic news video, it's interesting to see whether this is going to kind of continue in that same vein, if there's going to be any kind of large developments. I know that the book itself is starting up a brand new story arc. I really like Kenneth Rocafort's cover art, which is going on this one, and Jeff Lemire always has my attention when it comes to writing something. But you've got to kind of question what the future has in store for Valiant, so it's one that I'm going to be watching just for that reason. Getting back into Marvel, let's talk about Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows number 16, which is a brand new story arc that it's putting Annie in high school. So I'm interested to see what Annie's like in high school. We know what Peter's experience was like because that's how Spider-Man started. But how is Spiderling, or whatever her new codename is going to be when she actually comes up with one, how is her experience in high school really going to differ or be similar to Peter's experience? And what is that going to do to her parents, especially since they started treating her more as a superhero and less as a, sidekick or somebody to be protected? I'm really interested to see where this one's going. I know that there's some kind of wishy-washiness when it comes to Renew Your Vows, but it's something that I'm still, a fan of, and I'm going to continue reading it and seeing exactly where it goes. Instead of starting a new storyline, we're going to be concluding a new storyline, or at least adding another part to it in Action Comics 997, where we still see Superman and Booster Gold traveling through time and doing all kinds of craziness. So we were alluded to in Superman number 40 that this was a storyline that was being referenced in the Superman story, so he's got to make it back safely somehow, but I'm interested to see how they actually kind of go through with all this, because first off, they went to Krypton, they came back from Krypton, they ended up on some sort of distant planet that's ruled by the son of Zod, and now they're being captured. There's all these kind of things that really need to happen in order for Superman and Booster Gold to make it back to planet Earth in the right time. So hopefully that's going to bring us a little bit closer to the conclusion in this one. I'm interested to see where it goes, but Action Comics is slowly losing me, and with the big changes coming up in 1000 and 1001, you never really know what you're going to get for the end of this book. But since we're on the topic of ending comic story arcs, let's talk about Black Monday Murders number 8, because this is going to be the end of the initial arc for this particular independent book written by Jonathan Hickman. And this is a book that we haven't seen in months and months and months. It's really dense, it's really heavy, it's typical Jonathan Hickman fare, but I really enjoy it. He's got to be one of my favorite writers when it comes to these kind of things, even though he is distinctly... He's prone to delays and gaps in publishing. I don't know why, but it's the case. So I'm excited to see where this one ends up, because I really like the subject matter, I like the presentation, and I really like Hickman as a writer, but I can totally understand if you guys are just like, wait a minute, they're still making that? It's just been that long. Of course, there is a book that you're not going to forget about them making, and that is Avengers, and Avengers 680 comes out. So after the recent revelations in 679, there's a lot that's really going on in this one, and there's a whole different dynamic that's going along with the reintroduction or the introduction of a new character in the Challenger, who's taking on the Grandmaster, who is one of the greatest gamesmen in the Marvel, the Marvel universe. What's going on? So it's still not something that excites me, but I'm following along because maybe it'll get interesting. Hopefully we'll find out. Overall, yeah, Avengers 680 is coming out, and if you like it, sweet. After last issue's, well, let's say mind-blowing events, Detective Comics 974 has a lot of stuff that it really needs to answer for. You know, you've got this whole emotional journey that Tim Drake's been going on since he met with Savior, or Tim Drake, the Batman of the future, and then you've Batman of tomorrow specifically. You've got this whole thing with Kate Kane, and you know how Batwoman's really reacting to this stuff, and then of course you've got Clayface, who was the real central focus of this entire story for the last few issues. So there's a lot that really needs to happen, especially after the last panel that we got in issue 6, and you know, in the last issue. So there's you know, everybody keep your head screwed on tight. It's going to be a bumpy ride, it feels like. Now let's just take a deep dive over into Marvel, and we're going to start with Punisher 221, where he continues to just wreck shit with the War Machine armor. It's one of my favorite things about the Punisher. It's a really great interpretation, and Matthew Rosenberg is writing a great book. You know, of course, you've got some really solid art that goes along with it, but I love the answer to the question, what would Frank Castle do if he was Iron Man? And in reality, we gave him a little bit more dangerous suit, and it's everything that I really hoped it would be. I mean, he's going to depose an entire country with just one man and a machine armor. This is going to be fantastic. I really like where it's going, and I can't wait to see where Matthew Rosenberg takes the character in the future. For the next Marvel book, we'll talk about Captain America 698, which is really gearing up towards that issue number 700 milestone for the man of the flag, you know, for Cap. And what we've seen is that not only is he, you know, still a man out of time, especially this new iteration that came out of Secret Empire, but he's now another man out of time. Like, they just froze him, and he's going to awaken in the future. It's going to be ridiculous. You know, it's like, guy can't catch a break, man. You know, he's just frozen all the time. But it's Mark Waid, and Sam Nee is doing some really great work with the art, and it's refreshing compared to some previous iterations of Captain America, but I just hope it doesn't go too far away from what's kind of keeping it strong for me, you know. The one thing that I don't have to worry about, though, is Doctor Strange. So in Doctor Strange 385 is what's coming out this coming week, and I just love this story. First off, you've got G.H. Walter, who's doing a fantastic job with the art. It's just phenomenal. You've got the whole story of Loki, Sorcerer Supreme, and how it's kind of combative with Stephen Strange, who was kind of resigned himself to being a doctor, and then ultimately, when faced with this kind of real huge conflict about this spell that he doesn't want anybody to gain access to, which evidently is embedded on the soul of Zelma. Okay, we're talking way too fast right now, but all you need to know is that the Sentry's involved, the Void's involved, they went and, you know, got power from Yggdrasil, the World Tree, and Doctor Strange and Loki, Sorcerer Supreme, they're going head-to-head, and this is going to be the issue that's probably going to decide it. Also, we want to take a little bit of time to revisit some books that are great. So Mr. Miracle #1 is getting its director's cut, so you get a lot of unreleased content, everything. You got original pencils and inks and that kind of stuff. It really brings together everything. So if you're looking for a chance to get on Mr. Miracle, if you've been sleeping on it, which is a terrible idea, Mr. Miracle's fucking amazing. If you really need to get into it, start here. There's a whole bunch of reprints that were released this week as well. So, you know, hop on Mr. Miracle. It's a great train. It's a great ride. Do it. Just do it. Another book that I'm considering a pretty great ride is Marvel 2-in-1 #3. So with Marvel 2-in-1 #3, we see The Thing and the Human Torch. And the last time we left our heroes, they had found the multi-sect. So this gives them the ability to hop between universes and worlds. They have the Fantasticar. They've kind of given Doom the heave-ho. You know, he's no longer going to be hanging around because they kind of, I don't know, deceived him, or just maybe Ben didn't necessarily remember what their first adventure was, which was pretty creative in the last issue too. So I'm really excited to see where, you know, Fantastic 2, you know, where this kind of really plays into it, and how they can go about adventuring and really bringing that level of exploration back to the Marvel Universe, even though it's only the two of them, and hopefully it'll become the 4 or the 6 in the future. But I'm going to enjoy the ride. You know, the journey is half the fun when it comes to these kind of things, and I can't wait to see where this one goes. Now that we're done with ongoing titles, let's talk about new #1s. We've got Shade the Changing Girl and Wonder Woman #1, where we see American Wife, or Wonder Wife, on the cover. You know, again, great Frank Quitely art, and this is great. I loved the Mother Panic Batman crossover. I really enjoyed the JLA Doom Patrol crossover with Milkman Man. There's just so many cool things that are going on with this company, Retcon, and how it's impacting the DC universe as a whole, specifically crossing over the Young Animal imprint with the main DC continuity, and I'm super excited to see where this goes, just because I haven't been disappointed with one of these yet. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happens, but I'm ready for it. I am so ready for it, so I'm on board for that one. Another new #1 I want to throw at you is the Star Wars Thrawn book coming from Marvel, so written by Jody Houser. This is the story of Thrawn. it's like talking about his youth and his development, and it's all the comic books are canon. So if you want to get a little bit deeper dive into the historical figure that is Thrawn, and kind of get a little bit more context on him, this is going to be the vehicle to do that. And overall, Jody's got a lot of experience when it comes to writing Star Wars canon and kind of injecting these things into the universe. So I'm really excited to see where that one goes. I recommend you guys pick it up just because I like Thrawn, and I think it's going to be a good book. Of course, there is another book that I want to talk about, which is Sideways #1, which is, again, a DC New Age of Heroes book coming out. So you've got art by Kenneth Rocafort, you've got Dan DiDio and Justin Jordan, I believe, doing the actual, words and stuff like that. And it's about a teenager that was caught in the aftermath of the Dark Universe, or, the metal kind of calamity that's really going on right now inside DC. And he's given powers and the ability to rip, basically, the fabric of space and time and leap back and forth between places. The unfortunate thing is that every time that he does this, it causes damage that could be possibly cataclysmic. And there's a lot that he has to answer for, especially what you've seen in the previews that have been in the back of a couple DC books so far. Sideways #1 is easily one of the books that I'm most excited for out of DC's New Age of Heroes, along with the Terrifics and stuff like that. But I'm excited to see where this one goes. Hopefully it's going to be everything that I expect and more. But the big book that I want to finish off with is a book that was already pretty prominent to begin with, and that is KickAss #1 by Mark Millar and John Romita on art. So not only is John Romita doing The Silencer, but he's also back on KickAss, or at least for a period of time, and it's a whole different character inside the same name. So it's a whole different person, it's a whole different series, it's a completely different experience. It's really taking on the Kick-Ass mythology and the inspiration to create this brand new character. There are some great variant covers. You've got a really cool variant cover by Oliver Coipel. You've got another one by Frank Quietly. So there's a lot of stuff to really take a look at in this. I'm excited to see where this one goes. I kind of missed the boat on the first Kick-Ass series, but I caught up with it in trade. And of course, you've got the movies that came out. So Mark Millar knows what he's doing to create a marketable property, which we already found out with Reborn. It's one of those things where is it going to have the kind of depth and the storytelling aspects that cause me to really enjoy it. I don't necessarily know yet, but I'm excited to find out. But I want to know what you guys are excited about too, so hit me up in the comments down below and we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.